In the complex world of modern dating, there is a specific type of emotional stalemate that leaves many women feeling confused, drained, and uncertain about where they stand. It's the phenomenon of the proud man, the one who is deeply, perhaps even desperately, in love with you, yet possesses an ego so rigid that he would rather risk losing the relationship than admit he is vulnerable. For this man, the prospect of life without you is a terrifying reality that keeps him up at night, but his internal programming tells him that showing fear is a sign of weakness. He operates under his strength-first policy, believing that a man must always remain stoic, in control, and unshakable. However, because human emotions cannot be fully suppressed, his fear of losing you doesn't disappear. It simply migrates from his words into his behaviors. It manifests as a series of subtle, often contradictory signals that can be incredibly difficult to decode if you don't know what you're looking for. Understanding this dynamic is crucial because, without the right lens, you might mistake his silence for indifference or his moodiness for a lack of interest. In reality, the more a man has to lose, the higher his defensive walls become. He might act distant one day and hyper-attentive the next, or he might become defensive when you mention your independent plans, or while refusing to say the words, "I need you." This video is designed to pull back the curtain on that pride wall. We are going to explore the 15 psychological triggers and behavioral patterns that prove he is terrified of your departure, even when his mouth says otherwise. By identifying these signs, you gain a massive advantage. You stop reacting to his mask and start responding to his heart. When a man is scared but proud, he plays a high-stakes game of emotional chess. He wants to keep you close without looking like he's clinging. He wants to be your hero without admitting he's afraid of being replaced. This internal conflict creates a specific type of magnetic tension where he is constantly pulling you toward him through actions while pushing you away with his ego. Whether it's through his practical check-ins, his sudden competitive nature toward other men, or the way his body language betrays his stoic face, the truth is always there, hidden in the details. In the following sections, we will break down exactly how these behaviors work, why he chooses them, and what they reveal about his true level of commitment. If you've been feeling like you're in a relationship with a ghost who occasionally turns into a king, these 15 signs will finally give you the clarity you've been searching for. It's time to stop wondering and start seeing the unspoken language of a man who is scared to lose the best thing that ever happened to him. 1. He gets visibly jealous but tries to act indifferent. Pride is a powerful shield, and for a man who is terrified of losing you, jealousy is often the first crack in that armor. However, because he doesn't want to appear weak or controlling, he will attempt to mask his insecurity with a facade of indifference. You might notice that when you mention a male colleague or a new friend, his posture stiffens, his tone shifts, or he suddenly becomes very interested in his phone. He is internally spiraling, wondering if this new person offers something he doesn't. Yet his mouth remains shut because admitting he's jealous feels like admitting he doesn't have a grip on the relationship. This behavior is a classic tug-of-war between his ego and his heart. He might try to downplay the other person's achievements or make a subtle, snarky comment disguised as a joke. If you ask him if he's upset, he'll likely hit you with a quick "No, why would I be?" or "I don't care. Do what you want." This feigned nonchalance is a defense mechanism. He is trying to project an image of a man who is secure and unbothered, while in reality, the mere thought of someone else catching your attention sends a wave of panic through him. He watches your reaction closely during these moments. If you reassure him without him having to ask, you'll see his tension melt away instantly. He won't say "thank you for choosing me," but his sudden return to his usual, warmer self is the giveaway. He is scared that if he shows his jealousy, you'll see it as a lack of confidence, which he fears might drive you away even faster. So, he suffers in a quiet, moody silence, hoping you'll notice his discomfort and choose him all over again. 2. He remembers the smallest details about your life. When a man is deeply afraid of losing his place in your life, he becomes an unintentional scholar of you. While he might not be the type to write long, poetic paragraphs about his feelings, his brain becomes a vault for the tiny details you mention in passing. He remembers that you hate cilantro, that your boss was mean to you 3 Tuesdays ago, or that you have a specific brand of pens you prefer. To him, these details are the keys to staying relevant and indispensable. If he knows you better than anyone else does, he feels he has a stronger claim to your heart. This hyper-attentiveness is a silent way of saying, I'm paying more attention to you than anyone else ever will. Because his pride prevents him from saying, I love you and I'm scared you'll leave. He uses information as his currency. By bringing up a small detail you forgot you even told him, he proves his investment without having to be emotionally vulnerable. It's a safe way for him to show he cares. If you don't react well, he can just play it off as having a good memory rather than admit he spends his free time reflecting on your conversations. Furthermore, remembering these details allows him to anticipate your needs, making him feel like a permanent fixture in your daily routine. He wants to be the person who knows exactly how you take your coffee or why a certain song makes you sad. In his mind, being the person who gets you is his best insurance policy against being replaced. He is terrified that if he stops paying attention, he might miss a sign that you are drifting away, so he stays sharp, recording every nuance of your personality as a way to keep the connection alive and thriving. 3. He checks in frequently under the guise of practical reasons. A man who is scared of losing you wants to be in constant contact, but a proud man refuses to look clingy. To bridge this gap, he masters the art of the practical check-in. Instead of texting, I miss you or I was thinking about you, he'll send a message asking if you remembered to put gas in your car, if you saw the news about a storm heading your way, or if you ever finished that book you were talking about. These are excuses, logical anchors that allow him to enter your digital space without looking desperate. These check-ins serve a dual purpose. They keep him on your radar and they allow him to monitor your vibe. If you respond quickly and warmly, his anxiety subsides, and he feels secure for a few more hours. If you are short or take a long time to reply, his pride prevents him from asking, are we okay? Instead, he might send another practical query or funny link, trying to fish for a positive reaction. He uses these mundane topics as a safety net. If you reject the conversation, he hasn't lost anything because he was just asking a normal question. Beneath the surface of, did you eat today, is a profound fear of silence. Silence, to a man who is afraid of losing you, feels like a void where you might realize you don't need him. By keeping the communication lines open with useful information, he ensures that he remains a consistent part of your day. He wants to be your primary point of contact, the person you automatically look to when your phone buzzes. His pride demands that he stays cool, but his heart demands that he stays close, leading to a cycle of constant, seemingly random check-ins that are actually SOS signals. 4. He becomes extra helpful or the fixer when you're stressed. For many men, pride is tied directly to their utility. If he feels he is losing his grip on the relationship, he will try to make himself losable by becoming the ultimate problem solver. When you mention a struggle, whether it's a broken sink, a computer glitch, or a conflict at work, he will jump into action with an intensity that seems almost over the top. He isn't just being nice, he is trying to prove his worth. In his mind, if he is the person who fixes your life, you will have a practical reason to keep him around, even if the emotional waters get choppy. This fixer mentality is a shield against the vulnerability of emotional abandonment. He might not know how to fix the feeling of the relationship, but he knows how to fix a physical object or provide a logical solution. By stepping into this role, he regains a sense of control. He wants to see you rely on him because your reliance feels like security. If you are independent and don't need him for anything, it terrifies him, as his pride tells him that he has no leverage to keep you from walking away. You might notice he gets frustrated or even hurt if you refuse his help or solve a problem without him. This isn't because he thinks you're incapable. It's because you've taken away his opportunity to be your hero. He needs to be the hero to quiet the voice in his head that says he isn't enough. By being the man with a plan, he feels he is building a fortress around the relationship. He's too proud to say, please don't leave me. So instead he says, let me take care of that for you, hoping the value he adds will be enough to keep you by his side forever. 5. He stays in touch even after a disagreement. In a typical scenario where pride is the only factor, A man might go silent for days after an argument to win the fight. However, when a man is genuinely terrified of losing you, his fear eventually overrides his ego, even if it takes a bit of time. He might not give you a direct, emotional apology, because that would mean a total collapse of his pride, but he will find a way to re-enter the conversation shortly after a blow-up. He can't stand the silence because silence feels like the beginning of the end. This behavior often manifests as a bridge-building text or call that has nothing to do with the fight. He might send a meme, ask a random question, or mention something he saw that reminded him of you. This is his way of checking if the door is still open. He is too proud to say, "I'm sorry I messed up and I'm scared I pushed you too far," so he tests the waters with a neutral topic. If you engage, he feels a massive sense of relief, knowing that the threat of a breakup has passed for now. He stays in touch because he knows that distance creates space for reflection, and is afraid that if you reflect too long, you might realize you're better off without him. His pride allows him to stay slightly detached in his words, but his consistency tells a different story. He is the first to reach out, even if it's in a roundabout way, because the thought of a permanent goodbye is far more painful than the temporary bruise to his ego. He would rather lose the argument by being the one to break the silence than lose the girl by letting the silence turn into a permanent wall. 6. He shows softness only in private moments. A man who is scared of losing you but governed by pride often wears a mask of strength or indifference when the world is watching. In public or around friends, he might maintain a composed, almost detached demeanor because his ego demands that he appears in control of his emotions and the relationship. However, the moment the front door closes and it is just the two of you, that mask begins to slip. You might find him leaning his head on your shoulder, holding your hand a little tighter, or initiating long, quiet cuddles that seem out of character for his tough public persona. This private softness is a silent admission of his deep emotional dependency on you. He is terrified that if he shows this vulnerability in public, he will lose his edge or appear weak to others, but he cannot help but crave the intimacy that reassures him you are still his. These moments are his safe haven. When he is being soft with you, he is subconsciously grounding himself in the relationship, seeking the physical and emotional confirmation that the bond is still intact. He is too proud to say, "I need you to hold me because I'm worried we're drifting," so he lets his physical closeness do the talking. Furthermore, this inconsistency between his public and private self is a major sign of his internal struggle. He is fighting a war between the man he thinks he should be, stoic and unshakable, and the man he actually is, someone who is deeply in love and frightened of a life without you. By reserving his softness exclusively for you, he is making you the sole gatekeeper of his true heart. It is a high-stakes gamble. He is giving you the power to hurt him, which is why he only does it when no one else is looking. This secret tenderness is his way of anchoring you to him, creating a private world that only you two inhabit. 7. He is highly protective of your reputation and safety. When a man feels the threat of losing you, his protective instincts move into overdrive. This goes beyond just making sure you get home safe. It extends to how others perceive you and treat you. If someone speaks ill of you or treats you with even a hint of disrespect, he is the first to stand up, often with a level of intensity that surprises you. His pride won't allow him to be mushy about his feelings, but it will absolutely allow him to be your guardian. To him, protecting you is a tangible way to prove his devotion without having to use vulnerable language. This protectiveness is also a way for him to mark his place in your life. By being your shield, he is reinforcing the idea that he is an essential asset to your well-being. He wants you to feel that the world is a little bit scarier and less manageable when he isn't around. He isn't trying to stifle your independence. Rather, he is terrified that if you don't feel safe with him, you might look for that safety elsewhere. He monitors your environment, your car's maintenance, or even the people you hang out with, all under the guise of just looking out for you. Underneath this hypervigilance is a desperate fear of failure. In his mind, if he fails to protect you, he has failed as a partner, and that failure might lead to you leaving. He is too proud to admit he stays up late worrying about your problems, so he translates that anxiety into action. Whether it's walking on the street side of the sidewalk or defending your honor in a heated debate, These actions are his way of saying, "You are the most precious thing in my life, and I will fight anyone, except my own pride, to keep you." 8. He subtly brags about his achievements to impress you. A proud man who is afraid of losing you often suffers from a value crisis. He begins to worry that he isn't enough to keep you interested, so he starts highlighting his wins more frequently than usual. You might notice him mentioning a compliment he got at work, a new fitness milestone, or a clever thing he did, almost as if he's reading out a resume. He isn't just being a narcissist, he is performing. He is trying to remind you of why he is a catch because he is terrified that you've started looking at other options or have simply grown bored of him. This behavior is a defensive play against his own insecurity. By shining a spotlight on his strengths, he is trying to drown out the quiet fear that says he is replaceable. He needs to see your eyes light up with pride or hear you say, "I'm so impressed," because that validation acts as a temporary bandage on his ego. He wants to be your hero, your provider, or your smartest confidant. If he can maintain a high status in your eyes, his pride tells him that you will have no reason to leave. The tragedy of this sign is that it often comes off as arrogance, when it is actually rooted in a deep need for your approval. He is fishing for a reason to feel secure. If you stop complimenting him or seem unimpressed by his latest win, his anxiety will skyrocket. He is too proud to ask, "Do you still think I'm great?" So he creates scenarios where you are forced to acknowledge his worth. Every brag is a hidden question. Am I still the best man for you? He is terrified the answer might one day be no, so he keeps the highlight reel playing on a loop. 9. He gets defensive when you mention other male friends. Jealousy and pride are a volatile mix. When you talk about a male friend, even one he knows is just a friend, a man who is scared of losing you will often become uncharacteristically defensive or dismissive. He might pick apart the other guy's flaws, make sarcastic remarks about his intentions, or suddenly bring up his own superior qualities. He isn't necessarily a jealous type by nature, but because he is currently feeling insecure about his standing in your heart, every other male becomes a potential predator in his eyes. His defensiveness is a preemptive strike. He is trying to devalue the competition before they even have a chance to get close to you. He is too proud to say, "The way you talked about him made me feel small and scared that you might like him more than me." So he converts that fear into anger or rational criticism. He might claim he is just protecting you or that he knows how guys think, but the reality is that he is protecting his own territory. He feels that if he lets his guard down for even a second, he might lose the most important person in his life. This sign is often accompanied by sudden coldness or withdrawal of affection immediately after the male friend is mentioned. He wants you to notice that his mood has changed, hoping you will realize that your interaction with others has a direct impact on him. He is playing a high-stakes game of chicken with his emotions. He wants you to choose him over everyone else without him having to beg for your loyalty. His pride tells him that a real man shouldn't have to compete, but his fear tells him he is in the race of his life, and he is terrified of coming in second. 10. He follows your social media closely but rarely likes everything. In the digital age, silence on social media can be just as loud as a comment. A proud man who is scared of losing you will often lurk on your profile with intense consistency. He knows exactly when you posted a story, who commented on your photo, and where you were 3 hours ago. However, his pride prevents him from being the guy who likes every single post or leaves lovey-dovey comments for everyone to see. He wants to keep a pulse on your life without letting you know exactly how much he is monitoring you. This watching from the shadows is a way for him to feel connected to you when he isn't physically there. It allows him to gather information about your mood, your plans, and your social circle without having to ask you directly and risk looking clingy. If he sees you out having fun without him, he might feel a pang of fear that you are realizing you don't need him to be happy. This often leads to a check-in text shortly after you post, usually about something unrelated, just to remind you that he is still there and still relevant. His reluctance to like everything is his way of maintaining a sense of mystery and power. He doesn't want to be the fan in your notifications. He wants to be the partner in your life. Yet, he can't stop scrolling. He is terrified of seeing something that suggests you are moving on or moving away from him. This behavior is a digital manifestation of his internal state, He is deeply invested and constantly watching, but too proud to show his hand. He wants you to feel his presence without him having to say a single word, hoping his silent observation is enough to keep you within his reach. 11. He apologizes through actions rather than words. For a man whose identity is built on a foundation of pride, the word sorry can feel like a total admission of defeat. To him, saying it out loud feels like stripping away his authority or admitting he is lesser than you in that moment. However, when he is terrified that a mistake he made might actually drive you away for good, he won't stay stagnant. Instead of a verbal apology, he will pivot toward reparative actions. You might find that after a cold spell, he suddenly shows up with your favorite meal, fixes that leaky faucet has been ignoring for months, or becomes uncharacteristically helpful with your chores. This is his way of balancing the scales. He is essentially trying to buy back your affection and security through tangible efforts. By being the perfect partner in practice, he hopes to overshadow the memory of his mistake. He is watching you closely during this time. He is looking for a softening in your eyes or change in your tone that signals you've forgiven him. If he gets that signal, he feels he has successfully navigated the crisis without having to bruise his ego with a formal apology. He believes that doing is more honorable than saying, and he uses this to keep the relationship stable while keeping his pride intact. The danger for him is that he often feels he's done enough once he's performed a few nice gestures. If you still insist on a verbal apology, you might see him get defensive again. This isn't because he isn't sorry. The fact that he's working so hard to please you proves he is, but because he feels his actions should speak for themselves. He is terrified that if he has to grovel, the power dynamic will shift and he will lose your respect. So, he pours all his fear of losing you into being the most useful, attentive, and hardworking version of himself, hoping that his labor is a language you can translate as "I'm sorry, please don't leave." 12. He becomes quiet or moody when you talk about future plans without him. Nothing triggers the fear of loss in a proud man faster than the realization that your future is a blank space where he might not be included. If you start talking about a solo trip you want to take next year, a career move that might require relocation, or even a weekend getaway with friends, you might notice an immediate shift in his energy. He becomes quiet, gives one-word answers, or suddenly acts tired and wants to end the conversation. This moodiness is a direct reaction to the threat of your independence. He interprets your solo plans as a sign that you are mentally preparing for a life without him. Because he is too proud to say, "It scares me when you don't include me in your vision of the future," he retreats into a shell of resentment. He wants you to want him there, but he feels that asking for an invite or expressing his hurt would make him look needy. By becoming moody, he is subconsciously hoping you will notice his distress and reassure him by saying, "Of course I want you to come," or "This doesn't mean I'm leaving you." He is fishing for a confirmation of his place in your long-term life. This behavior often leads to accidental arguments. He might pick a fight about something completely unrelated just to release the tension he feels about the future. Underneath the grumpy exterior is a man who feels he is being phased out. He views the relationship as a fortress, and your individual plans feel like a breach in the walls. He is terrified that if you realize how much fun you can have without him, you'll eventually decide you don't need him at all. His pride won't let him beg for a spot in your future, so he sits in a brooding silence, waiting for you to pull him back into the center of your world. 13. He indirectly asks about your opinion on important decisions. A man who is scared of losing you wants to ensure his life is deeply entwined with yours, but a proud man wants to feel like he is still the leader of his own destiny. To navigate this, he will start asking for your advice on major life choices, like career moves, financial investments, or even personal style, but he will frame it as just curious what you think rather than "I need your help." By involving you in his decision-making process, he is creating a psychological bond. He is signaling that your perspective is the one he values most, which is a massive compliment from a proud person. This is a strategic move to make you feel like a stakeholder in his life. If you help him choose his next job or help him navigate a conflict with his family, you become part of his success. He is essentially building a we identity without having to have a heavy emotional talk about commitment. He is terrified that if he makes big moves without you, he is creating a path that leads away from you. By bringing you into the war room of his life, he ensures that the two of you are moving in the same direction. Furthermore, he uses your opinions as a barometer for your level of investment. If you give thoughtful, detailed advice, he feels secure and loved. If you seem indifferent or tell him to do whatever you want, he feels a spike of panic. To him, your indifference is a sign that you don't care where he ends up, which means you might not plan on being there when he arrives. He hides this vulnerability behind a mask of seeking a second opinion. But in reality, he is asking for a sign that you still see yourself as his partner and his most trusted advisor. 14. He drags out conversations just to keep you around longer. Time is the most valuable resource for someone who is afraid of losing you. When a proud man feels the connection slipping, he will find subtle, almost invisible ways to extend the time you spend together. If you are on the phone, he might keep bringing up one more thing or start a new story just as you're about to hang up. If you are leaving his house, he might suddenly remember a video he has to show you or ask for your help with a quick task. He isn't being annoying on purpose. He is fighting against the exit. He views every goodbye as a small risk. To him, when you walk away or hang up the phone, he loses his influence over the vibe of the relationship. He is too proud to say, "I'm having a hard time today and I just want to hear your voice for 5 more minutes." So he uses filler conversation as a tether. He will talk about the news, his day, or even mundane gossip, anything to keep the digital or physical door open. He is trying to maximize his face time because he believes that as long as you are talking to him, you aren't thinking about leaving him. You might notice he becomes particularly chatty late at night or during times when he knows you are about to head out to see others. This is a subtle way of monopolizing your attention. He wants to be the last person you think about before you sleep and the person who takes up the most space in your day. His pride demands that these transitions seem natural and casual, but the frequency of these long goodbyes tells the true story. He is clinging to the moments you share because he's terrified that one day, the goodbye might be permanent. 15. His body language is always leaning toward you, even when he's quiet. The body often betrays what the pride tries to hide. Even if he is acting cool, mysterious, or even slightly distant with his words, his physical presence will tell a different story. A man who is terrified of losing you will subconsciously track you in a room. His feet will point toward you. He will lean in when you speak, and he will maintain a level of physical proximity that feels protective. Even when he is being quiet or moody, he will ensure he is within your orbit. He cannot help but gravitate toward the person who represents his emotional safety. This constant leaning in is a sign of his hyper-attunement to you. He is scanning for your micro-expressions, your tone of voice, and your body language to see if you are still with him. If you move away, he will often find a reason to move closer a few minutes later. This magnetic behavior is a primal response to the fear of abandonment. He wants to feel your warmth and see your reactions up close because distance, even a few feet of it, feels like a precursor to emotional distance. He is too proud to ask for a hug or a kiss when he's feeling insecure, so he uses his physical presence to bridge the gap. You might also notice possessive body language, like placing a hand on the back of your chair or standing slightly closer to you when other people are around. This is his way of signaling to the world, and to himself, that you are still together. It is a silent claim of territory. His pride prevents him from being clingy with his words, but his body cannot ignore the urge to stay connected. He is anchored to you, and no matter how much his ego tries to pull him away to look independent, his heart keeps him leaning in, desperate to ensure the bond is never broken.